This is Bitnar Talks, the engineer takes on construction. Episode 26. Hi, I'm Piotr Bitnar. Each day I help my clients plan and design building projects through Bitnar Limited, a consulting chartered structural engineer's practice. My biggest passion and the cornerstone on which I've built my business is finding clever solutions for construction projects. I am a chartered structural engineer and a budding software developer, so you can rest assured that I will strive to talk about the best practices and the use of new technologies in the industry. And if you're embarking on a construction project or are involved in planning, designing and building the world around us, you'll find this podcast useful. Approved Document K: Protection from Falling, Collision and Impact. Hi, and welcome to Bitnar Talks, your favorite podcast on all matters of architecture, engineering and construction. It is Thursday the 8th of August 2024, and I'm here back with you with the 26th episode and information on Approved Document K: Protection from Falling, Collision and Impact. We are in the middle of the summer holidays. The weather is mild and not what you would normally expect from August. But hey, it is pleasant, great for walking and great for work. As ever, before I go to covering the material of this episode, let's have a look at what was covered last week. In the last episode, I talked about the Approved Document J: Combustion appliances and fuel storage systems. There are 7 requirements covered in this document, contained within 6 sections, and these sections are as follows. Section 0 covers scope and standards. This section tells us that the document primarily focuses on domestic installations, covering solid, gas, and oil combustion and fuel storage systems with specific output limits. We are sent for additional guidance to CIBSE Guide B, BSI and IGEM materials. In section 1, we are put forward to find out all about general provisions for safe installation. The section outlines general requirements for proper specification, materials, workmanship and inspection. Key elements include adequate air supply, ventilation, flue systems, carbon monoxide alarms, half sizing, heat insulation and proper documentation. Compliance testing is mandatory. In Section 2 covers further solid fuel appliances up to 50 kilowatts of output. It details air supply, flue size, height, outlet position, and clearances from combustibles or products of combustion. HAF specifications vary based on appliance, type, and building fabric proximity. Section 3 deals with gas appliances up to 70 kilowatts input net. Requires installation by a gas safety registered professional. Recommends room-sealed appliances for sleeping or bathing areas. Specifies ventilation, flue requirements, and outlet positioning to avoid nuisance. Section 4, oil-burning appliances up to 45 kilowatts output, follows similar guidelines to gas appliances with specific provisions for oil types and their blends. Emphasizes flue gas temperature, acidity of combustion gases, positioning and HAF materials. In most instances, the manufacturer specifications must be followed. Section 5 deals with oil and LPG storage. It tells us that the storage must be protected from fire and environmental damage, requires proper installation, secondary containment, and emergency procedure labeling. Fire-resistant barriers may be needed based on proximity to buildings and site boundaries. It provides guidance on underground and above ground piping. In this episode, I'll move to the approved document K, protection from falling, collision and impact. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this. In this episode, I'll talk about the statutory guidance contained within the approved document K, protection from falling, collision and impact. When you read the Building Regulation Schedule 1 that deals with these requirements, you will find that the document K covers also the provisions of the requirement N. Therefore, there is not an approved document that specifically deals with the requirement N. The episode will follow its standard format for the material talking about the approved documents. I will first read you the text of the actual regulation and then we'll go section by section of the document. The document contains guidance for the discharge of requirement K1 to K6 in 10 sections 1 to 6. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of this approved document. Starting with the text of the legislation. Part K, protection from falling, collision and impact. Stairs, ladders and ramps. K1. Stairs, ladders and ramps shall be so designed, constructed and installed as to be safe for people moving between different levels in or about the building. Now, requirement K1 applies only to stairs, ladders and ramps which form part of the building. Protection from falling. K2. The following shall be provided with barriers where it is necessary to protect people in or about the building from falling. A. Any stairs, ramps, floors and balconies and any roof to which people have access, and B. Any light well, basement area or similar sunken area connected to a building. Now, requirement K2A applies only to stairs and ramps which form part of the building. Vehicle barriers and loading bays, that's requirement K3. Point 1. Vehicle ramps and any level in a building to which vehicles have access shall be provided with barriers where it is necessary to protect people in or about the building. Point 2. Vehicle loading bays shall be constructed in such a way or to be provided with such features as may be necessary to protect people in them from collision with vehicles. Protection against impact with glazing, K4. Glazing with which people are likely to come into contact while moving in or about the building shall A. If broken on impact, break in a way which is unlikely to cause injury, or B. Resist impact without breaking, or C. Be shielded or protected from impact. Protection from collision with open windows, etc. K5.1. Provision shall be made to prevent people from moving in or about the building from colliding with open windows, skylights or ventilators. Now, requirement K5.1 does not apply to dwellings. Manifestation of glazing, that's requirement K5.2. Transparent glazing with which people are likely to come into contact while moving in and about the building shall incorporate features which make it apparent. Now, requirement K5.2 does not apply to dwellings. Safe opening and closing of windows, etc. K5.3 requirement. Windows, skylights and ventilators which can be opened by people in or about the building shall be so constructed or equipped that they may be opened, closed or adjusted safely. Now, requirement K5.3 does not apply to dwellings. Safe access for cleaning windows, etc. K5.4 requirement. Provision shall be made for any windows, skylights or translucent walls, ceilings or roofs to be safely accessible for cleaning. Now, requirement K5.4 does not apply to A. Dwellings, or B. Any transparent or translucent elements whose surface are not intended to be cleaned. Protection against impact from trapping by doors. Requirement K6.1. Provision shall be made to prevent any door or gate A which slides or opens upwards from falling onto any person, and B which is powered from trapping any person. Point 2, provision shall be made for power doors and gates to be opened in the event of a power failure. Point 3, provision shall be made to ensure a clear view of the space on either side of the swing door or gate. Now, requirement K6 does not apply to A, dwellings, or B, any door or gate which is part of a lift. Okay, so these are paragraphs of the legislation requirements contained within its Schedule 1. The approved document covers all these aspects within its 10 sections. The guidance starts with letting us know that, for example, repair to window by replacement of the glazing only is not considered a building work, but replacement or introduction of a new frame is. Or that the document is concerned with elements of the building or elements or features attached to it, and we should seek guidance from other documents for the circumstances outside of this. Like approved document M for pedestrian access and circulation routes to the building. We are also reminded that other legislation may be more onerous than the building regulations, so certain aspects need to be cross-checked with. For example, for requirement K1, we may like to check Workplace Health and Safety and Welfare Regulation 1992. Specifically, Regulation 17 should be checked. Regulation 6 of the Work and Height Regulation 2005, when it comes to the requirement K2 of the approved document, or similar cross checks may also be necessary on other aspects of the regulations. Now, Section 1 deals with guidance on aspects of the geometry of stairs, special stairs, fixed ladders, and handrails for and guarding of stairs. Every day, quite a few people get injured or die on domestic stairs, so it's not wonder some regulation pointing us in the direction of safer geometry has been put in place and is being lobbied before. It is impossible to have safe stairs, as with every change of level, gravity will drag us to the lowest place, whether we like it or not. The strategy here, the Secretary of State strategy here, is to control how we change that level and what is considered reasonably safe for that circumstance. So we can expect a different approach for public access spaces and private dwellings or access for maintenance only. The document is concerned with the geometry of stairs in and immediately leading to the building. Limits are being imposed on steepness, aka the pitch of the stairs, which is the angle of the stringer, if you like, or simply an inverse of a tangent of the product of division of the riser by the going. That's a mouthful. The pitch line is measured along the nosings. There is no limit on the minimum protrusion of the nosing in closed riser stairs, but it should be no more than 25 mm and at least 60 mm if the risers are open. If kids can get stuck in the stairs, then the riser opening should not be larger than 100 mm. The maximum pitch for private stairs, meaning private dwellings, is 42 degrees, which if you want to measure if the new stairs will fit will fit within your house, taking in consideration their length, it is simply 11% more than the difference in height between the floors. Ideally, however, the transition will be as smooth as possible, having a rise of 150 mm and going between 220 and 400 mm. The guidance typically asks that 2 times the riser dimension plus the going dimension be somewhere between 550 and 700 mm. Gangways in assembly buildings are treated a little different and should be of maximum 35 degree pitch, of uniform width, provide access to transverse gangways leading to vomitory exit, prevent crossing of transverse and radial gangways with TH seating to prevent crowd congestion, step TH rises to be between 100 and 190 mm of equal height, maximum 100 steps for gangways over 25 degrees in pitch and with no cross gangways. Landing at the exit of step gangway needs to be at least 1.1 meter deep, or at least as deep as the width of the doors. Step side gangways should have a handrail. In step tiers, the level between the seatway and the nearest step should be the same. Gangways need to be at least 900 mm wide, up to 50 person use, and at least 1.1 meter above that limit. You can well read all these points in the document. Very straightforward stuff. Construction of steps should be uniform. You do not want to keep on guessing what the next step is going to be, alright? For buildings outside of the dwellings, we are encouraged to make the nosing visible by applying contrasting material on the nosing and threads, minimum of 55 mm width. And protect people from banging their heads on the soffit of stairs if it is below 2 meter height by either guarding or provision of low-level cane detection. We are also discouraged from using open risers. For common access to flats, the expectation of making steps more visible is slightly reduced in width, but solid risers and maximum nosing of 25 mm remain in place. If you have ever wondered how to measure a headroom over the stairs, it is along the pitch line and cannot be less than 2 meters, including landings. If the building is other than dwelling, the 2 meter headroom will also apply to escape routes. The document recognizes that the 2 meter headroom may be sometimes difficult to achieve on loft conversions, so it provides a leeway in that the headroom can be reduced to 1.9 meter in the middle of stairs and 1.8 meters to one side. For the width of stairs, there are no special provisions for dwellings, other than for steps at the entrance story of at least 900 mm width. For stairs other than dwellings, either the requirement of the fire escape route from the approved document B should be followed, or stairs should be minimum of 1 meter between the handrails, or 1.2 between the walls or constraining features. If, however, stairs are wider than 2 meters, these should be divided into at least 1 meter wide sections. The length of the flight of stairs should follow the particular limits of the number of rises, which is 36 rises, after which a landing needs to be provided, and a change of direction of at least 30 degrees is required. Furthermore, for buildings other than dwellings and in common access to flats, there should be no single steps, and maximum of 16 rises for utility stairs, and 12 risers for general access stairs, but possibly up to 16 in small premises where there is no space otherwise. Landings should be clear of obstruction and satisfy the minimum sizing of depth and width equaling the width of the stair for dwellings, but a minimum of 1.2 meter length otherwise. Doors may swing over the top landings, but only if these are openable from outside, providing at least 400 mm of residual space for a person opening the doors. Landing may be up to 1 in 60 gradients sloped if it is due to ground sloping, but will need to be of hard surface. Doors may also swing across bottom landings in dwellings, but the remaining space of minimum 400 mm should be observed. Tapered stairs should follow the same consideration as normal stairs, and the going width is measured in the middle of the stairs as ascribed by its circle. If tapered stairs mix with straight stairs, like in the case of winding staircase, the tapered stairs going cannot be less than that of the straight stairs. For spiral and helical staircases, we are directed to BS 5395 Part 2, Code of Practice for the Design of Helical and Spiral Stairs. Again, a leeway is provided for tight spaces of some loft conversions where altering stairs or fixed ladders may be used for access to one bedroom loft conversion only. For industrial buildings, we are directed to BS 5395 Part 3 Code of Practice for the Design of Industrial Type Stairs, Permanent Ladders and Walkways, or BS 4211 Specification for Permanently Fixed Ladders. Handrails should be positioned between 900 mm and a meter over the pitch line and on both sides on stairways wider than 1 meter. For buildings other than dwellings and common access to flats, further consideration of the position and continuity of handrails should be observed, and these are nicely shown in the document's diagrams. Further considerations of no protrusion into the access route, visual contrast with the background but not reflective, easily damaged or overheating characteristic of the material use, as well as its detailing that should not catch clothing, or even a profile of the handrail is all covered in the document. Guarding of stairs should be somewhere between 800 and 1.1 meter of the floor, depending on the building category and circumstance, generally 900 millimeters at the stairs, 1.1 meter at landings and balconies, and 800 millimeters by the front seating in assembly or at the window. If the building may be used by children under 5 years of age, think about their rascal minds and protect them from falling off the railway or getting stuck between the spindles, so 100 mm maximum space between the elements and difficult to climb design is encouraged by the Secretary of State. Guarding to stairs and landings will also be needed in dwellings where the possible drop is more than 600 mm, and in non-dwelling cases when there are 2 or more rises. Access for maintenance consideration will vary depending on the frequency of use, so for stairs and ladders used at least once per month, we are directed to the approved document or BS 5385 Part 3. For less frequent access, however, portable means of access may be considered as long as it abides by safety consideration of CDM regulations. Section 2 deals with guidance on ramps and guarding of ramps. The guidance on ramps is much more straightforward as there is much less variation, but generally the approach is similar with that of the stairs, and again we are only concerned here with ramps in or attached to the building. Ramps should be readily apparent in non-dwellings. The ramp considerations start at the shallow end of 1 to 20 gradient, which gives you 500 mm rise over 10 meter long ramp, at which point we should have a landing. The ramp should not be steeper than 1 in 12, at which point the landing should be present after 2 meters of going. Ramps should be clear of obstructions, minimum 1.5 meter wide, and with curbs to open sides for non-dwellings. Head height and protection of the ramp soffit from skull impact should be addressed as is the case with the stairs. Landings and guardings for ramps follow same consideration as for stairs, with an addition of wheelchair passing landing size requirement of minimum 1.8 meter in both directions for ramps of 3 flights or more, or when there is no way to tell if a wheelchair is entering the ramp from opposite side. Section 3 is about guidance on protection from falling. It has been quite well covered when talking about the stairs, so just to reinforce in dwellings, we think 600 mm fall, and otherwise 2 steps of 380 mm fall if not part of the stairs. There is no need to provide guarding on ramps used for vehicle access only, or in loading bays where it would make the normal use more difficult. Naturally, the guarding needs to be strong enough for the building category and the location, and further guidance can be sought from British Standards 1991 and BS 6180. In addition, areas only accessed for maintenance should be signed as specified in the Health and Safety Signs and Signals Regulations 1996, and in the case of rarely frequented areas, the use of warning notices or temporary guarding may be sufficient. Section 4 gives us guidance on vehicle barriers and loading bays. This requirement boils down to the provision of either a strong enough barrier to stop or deflect the car, or provision of an alternative escape exit or refuge to avoid collision. The barrier should be strong enough and a minimum of 375 mm in height generally, but at least 610 mm at the ramp edge. Loading bays should have barriers where needed, but also should have at least one 2-step exit point from where the vehicle parks. For loading bays for 3 or more vehicles, there should be at least 2-step exit point or a refuge instead of one of the exit. Section 5 gives us guidance on protection against impact with glazing. In a gist, as long as the glazing will not harm you, or is strong enough not to break, or is guarded from impact, the Secretary of State is happy. In addition, we are informed why the consideration of the height of 800 mm generally and 1500 mm is 150 mm is considered, and is due to kids at the lower level and adults at the upper limit. We consider glass safety and suitability in accordance with the testing to BSEN 12600 and BSEN 6206, resistance against impact. If the disintegration is local, particles are small, and particles are not sharp, we are good to go. Then, depending on the size of the glass panel, different classifications are allowed. Class 2 to BS 12600 and Class B to BS 6206 glass panels of width exceeding 900 mm is fine for use in doors and side panels. Otherwise, in different locations and the panel size, we can designate a class down to either standard and can be so of a class 3 or class C, and we're good to go with these two lower classes. We are informed that the use of annealed glass is fine at certain thicknesses and panel sizes in front to the shops, showroom offices, factories and public buildings, as long as these are supported on four edges and do not exceed certain dimension, being 8 mm thick at 1.1 meter square panel, to unlimited size panels for 50 mm thick glass. Naturally, the size of the glass panel will be limited by manufacturing constraints, typically 6 by 3 meters, although that's pushing it a lot. Small pane glass arrangement may be used with panes limited to 250 mm maximum width and overall area of half of a meter square. The thickness of the glass should be at least 6 mm, but maybe 4 in leaded or copper lights. If glazing is protected by a screen, the screen should be of certain dimensions, at least 800 mm in height, and to prevent a sphere of 75 mm passing through any gaps. If the glazing protects people from falling, the barrier should discourage climbing over it. Section 6 provides guidance on protection from collision with open windows, etc. This consideration does not include dwellings, and in a just if you make sure no one will hit the openable stuff, you are good as rain. And the openable and hittable stuff is the stuff up to 2 meters from the ground, at least 100 mm away from the face of the wall, in which case provide barriers, cane detection, or change of surface to alert people in and about the building. Section 7 provides guidance on the manifestation of glazing. Another not dwelling thing: if you ever seen hazy labels of different shapes and sizes in offices or public spaces, then this is it. We try to avoid people going through the glass by showing them it is there. This applies to the critical location of large uninterrupted transparent glazing. Permanent manifestation of the glazing can be achieved by many methods, including labels, framing and large door handles. If the glazing has features that clearly mark the presence, we do not need to do anything else, but generally we need to mark such at two different levels with markings that will stick out from the background as looked at from both sides. The height of those points is either between 850 to 1 meter away from the floor, or between 1.4 to 1.6 meter. Section 8 provides guidance on safe opening and closing of windows, etc. This also does not apply to dwellings, and it simply means that you should not be harmed operating windows, skylights and ventilators. The control of such should be located not further than 600 mm from the window, or not higher than 1.9 meter or 1.7 meter if there is an obstruction in way. If the limits cannot be observed, there should be a manual description how to operate the thing, or electrical remote control. Windows should be installed with opening limiters or barriers if above the ground level, and may lead to someone falling through the opening. Section 9 talks about the guidance on safe access for cleaning windows. It does not apply to dwellings or spaces not intended for cleaning, and otherwise, as long as the access for cleaning is safe, the requirement is satisfied. The reaching out of the window for cleaning is limited to 610 mm downwards and 850 mm outwards and to the sides of the window. Otherwise, provide either windows opening to inside or safely rotating or access using ladders. Simple ladder up to 6 meters tall at 1 to 4 lean, or safely secured one if longer up to 9 meters and away from the traffic. Section 10 provides guidance on protection against impact from and trapping by doors. Yet again, this consideration does not include dwellings and it is in simple terms in place to allow safe operation of doors for you as a person who grabs the handle, but also for people on the other side of the door, and that is achieved by the provision of vision panels in door leaves larger than 450 millimeters of width, with two zones of visibility, one at half a meter to 0.8 meter from the ground, and the second one between 1.15 meter to 1.5 meter. Sliding doors should have mechanisms that prevent their failure and the derailment, upwards opening doors and gates to have control flow, and power doors to be fitted with safety features like pressure sensitive edge switch, stop switch, and automatic or manual opening in case of power failure. If doors swing over the access route by more than 100 mm, the users should be protected by barrier between 0.1 meters and 1.1 meter tall with cane detection at the bottom. So this is it, folks, the approved document K, protection from falling, collision and impact. Let's sum it up section by section. So the document provides comprehensive guidance on various aspects of building safety, with specific section dedicated to key areas when it comes to falling, collision and impact. Section 1 deals with stairs and guardings. The document outlines safety requirements for the design and construction of stairs, including geometry, handrails and guarding. It specifies maximum pitch, riser dimensions, going dimensions and the need for uniform step construction. Special considerations are provided for different building types, including private dwellings, public spaces and industrial buildings. Section 2 deals with ramps and guardings, and it's similar to stairs. Ramps must meet specific gradient and width requirements with appropriate landings and guardings. The guidance ensures ramps are safe and accessible, particularly in non-residential buildings and where the accessibility of people on the wheelchairs is paramount. Section 3, protection from falling. Guarding is required for areas with potential fall risks, such as stairs and balconies. Specific height and strength requirements are outlined, with additional guidance for areas accessed for maintenance. In Section 4, vehicle barriers and loading bays, we are met with consideration for barriers, which must be strong enough to stop vehicles and positioned to prevent collisions. Loading bays need sufficient exit points or refuge for safety. Section 5, glazing safety, puts our attention on standards dealing with the impact and how the glass behaves after this impact for glazing to prevent injury, including impact resistance and specific requirements for different glass types and sizes. It also addresses the need for protective barriers in certain applications or certain situations. Collision with open windows, that is Section 6, tells us that no residential buildings must prevent people from colliding with open windows and similar features through the provision of barriers or other methods that will differentiate, that will let people know that there is a protrusion in the face of the building, either inside or outside, especially prone to the impact being people with side impairment. Section 7, glazing manifestation, deals with large transparent glazing panels in public spaces, and they must be marked to prevent accidental collision with clear markings and at specific heights. Section 8, safe operation of windows, tells us that we should have a clear and easy access to operate the window, and if such is not possible, we should have an automatic remote control to do so, as well as that the windows over the ground floor level should not allow people to fall through them when they're open. Section 9, access for window cleaning. No residential building must provide safe access for window cleaning, with limits on reach and requirements for safe ladder size and use in alternative circumstances. However, in most cases the windows should either be openable to inside, rotatable, or otherwise designed and specified so to make the cleaning easier and safer. Section 10 deals with door safety, and it tells us that the doors basically should be safe to use, particularly in non-residential buildings. They should be safe to operate, and this includes the use of vision panels in the widths of the doors, safety mechanism for sliding doors, and barriers to prevent injury from swinging doors. In the next episode, we will move to approved document L, Conservation of Fuel and Power, Part 1, Dwellings. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that the considerations of the approved document K, protection from falling, collision and impact, are clear for you now. If you have any questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn or send me an email. I'm more than happy to help you out. In Bitna, we deal with planning, designing and managing of your projects, and we are always glad to facilitate a free initial consultation to steer you in the right direction. Visit www.bitna.co.uk and reach out to us. Whether your question is if we can help you with your project or what should I do, we will be able to give you a piece of non-obligatory advice. At Bitna, we help our clients design and execute their dream homes or investments. If your building is falling apart, we can also help investigate the reasons behind it and to provide you with an appropriate strategy, design and specifications for the repair. Thank you again for listening. Please voice up your opinions. I'm waiting for you on LinkedIn and I want to hear from you. See you next week. Bitna, design the world around you. Toodaloo!